On October 25, 2000, 15-year-old Deandra Florecci was tragically murdered. She left Spalding High School that morning with a note from her mother for a medical appointment. During her absence, a man named Dana Martin entered the school, claiming to be there to see her. Despite some initial resistance, he was allowed to meet with Deandra. The assistant principal later encountered them leaving together, but Deandra assured him she would return to her locker, but she never did. That evening, friends reported her missing. Dana Martin, who had been seen with her, led police to her body the following day. She had been sexually assaulted, strangled with a tie, and discarded off a bridge in Plainfield, Vermont. Martin was arrested and later pleaded guilty to her murder, receiving a sentence of 35 years to life in prison. In the years following his incarceration, Martin developed an obsession with Canadian pop star Justin Bieber. He sent numerous letters to Bieber and even had the singer's face tattooed on his leg. When Bieber did not respond, Martin conspired with fellow inmate Mark Stake and Stake's nephew, Tanner Ruan, to kidnap and castrate Bieber. Their plan was foiled when they were arrested near the Canadian border in 2012. Deandra's mother, Janice Edson, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Bar Supervisory Union, alleging that the school was negligent in supervising her daughter and allowing an unauthorized visitor on campus. However, the Vermont Supreme Court ruled that the school district was not legally responsible for the murder, citing the unforeseeability of the events. The case remains a poignant reminder of the importance of school safety and the unpredictable nature of human behavior. Michelle Norris was a 7-year-old girl from Central Falls, Rhode Island, who tragically disappeared on May 26, 1988. She had been playing with her brothers and cousins at a local school playground when she vanished. Michelle Norris was a bit shy, extremely smart, and always willing to help. She attended Harold Hunt Elementary School and was playing at a park behind the school. While at the park, Michelle simply just vanished. None of the other children heard her scream or saw anything suspicious. Michelle's mother stated, "It was like the ground just swallowed her up. She wouldn't just go with a stranger without a fight. So I think it was someone she had to know who took her." Her body was discovered 2 days later in a wooded area less than a mile from the playground. The cause of death was determined to be asphyxiation, and she had also been sexually assaulted. Detectives have speculated that she may have gone with someone she trusted, as she was known to be a shy and reserved child. Over the years, various leads and suspects have been considered, but no arrests have been made. The Central Falls Police Department continues to encourage anyone with information to come forward. It has been 37 years since Michelle was murdered, and they have not been able to identify a suspect. Sadly, this case remains unsolved. Connie Debate, a 39-year-old woman from Allington, Connecticut, was tragically murdered on December 23, 2015. Her husband, Richard Debate, initially claimed that a masked intruder had broken into their home, shot Connie, and tied him up. However, investigators uncovered compelling evidence that contradicted his account. A pivotal piece of evidence was data from Connie's Fitbit, which showed her moving around the house for about an hour after Richard claimed she had been killed. This data contradicted his timeline and suggested that Connie was alive longer than he had stated. Further forensic analysis revealed that Richard had staged the crime scene and fabricated the intruder story. The investigation also uncovered his affair with a pregnant woman, providing a possible motive for murder. In May 2022, Richard Debate was convicted of murder, tampering with physical evidence, and making a false statement. The prosecution presented over 600 exhibits and testimony from 130 witnesses, including digital evidence from Connie's Fitbit, cell phones, and the home's alarm system. The jury found that Richard had planned and executed the murder to conceal his affair and the impending birth of his child with another woman. In August 2022, Richard Debate was sentenced to 65 years in prison. He maintains his innocence and has filed appeals, challenging the conviction and alleging prosecutorial misconduct. Despite acknowledging improprieties by the prosecutor, the Connecticut Supreme Court upheld the conviction, stating that the evidence against Richard was overwhelming. This case is completely unfathomable, but ladies, please make a note to never date a cross-eyed motherfucker such as Robert Debate. Abby Stepback was an 18-year-old from Little Rock, Arkansas, who tragically disappeared on October 24, 2015. The last known contact with her was a phone call to her older brother. During the call, she mentioned she had been gang raped by 4 men and wanted to press charges. She seemed disoriented and ended the call and conversation abruptly. 2 days later, her car was discovered abandoned in Chalamont Park, a location near her home. Despite extensive searches, no further evidence was found. She remained a missing person for nearly 3 years before her body was discovered in a drainage pipe in Chalamont Park in May 2018. Approximately 60 feet from where her car had been found, due to the time she had been deceased for, she was only just skeletal remains. Once the remains were confirmed to be Abby's, her death was subsequently classified as a homicide. The exact cause of death has not been publicly disclosed, and the case remains unsolved. Imani Moss was a 10-year-old girl from Lawrenceville, Georgia, who tragically died on October 28, 2013, after enduring prolonged abuse and neglect at the hands of her father, Iman Giovanni Moss, and her stepmother, Tiffany Nicole Moss. Imani's death was the combination of years of mistreatment. She had been starved, confined to a bedroom, and subjected to physical abuse. At the time of her death, she weighed only 32 pounds, approximately the size of a 3-year-old. Her body was found in a metal garbage can outside her apartment, and it was evident that an attempt had been made to burn her remains. In 2015, Iman Moss pleaded guilty to felony murder, cruelty to children, and concealing a death. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Tiffany Moss, who represented herself during her trial, was convicted in 2019 on multiple charges, including malice murder and cruelty to children. She was sentenced to death by lethal injection, making her Georgia's only female death row inmate. Imani's death highlighted significant failures in the child welfare system. Despite multiple reports of abuse, including a 2010 incident where Imani disclosed her mistreatment to a school nurse, no effective intervention occurred. Following the tragedy, the Georgia Division of Family and Children's Services faced scrutiny, leading to internal reforms aimed at improving child protection protocols. Allison Parrott was an 11-year-old girl from Toronto, Ontario, who was tragically abducted and murdered in July 1986. She was lured from her home by a male caller posing as a photographer, who convinced her to meet him for a photo session. Allison was last seen boarding the subway to the University of Toronto's Varsity Stadium, but never returned. 2 days later, her body was discovered in a wooded area of Kings Mill Park, and the cause of death was determined to be strangulation. The case remained unsolved for over a decade until 1996, when a breakthrough occurred. Toronto homicide detectives utilized the violent crime linkage analysis system to identify a match between DNA evidence found at the crime scene. DNA matched Francis Carl Roy, a man with a history of sexual offenses. Roy was arrested in 1996 and convicted of first-degree murder in 1999. He was sentenced to life in prison and became eligible for parole in 2021. In the years following Allison's death, her mother, Leslie Parrott, became an advocate for child safety. She helped launch the Stay Alert, Stay Safe program in 1987, aimed at teaching children how to recognize and avoid potential dangers. Leslie has also expressed forgiveness toward Roy, stating that it has helped her move forward and heal. Every attempt Roy has made for parole has been denied, and Allison would have been 50 years old today. Rachel Entwistle, 27, and her 9-month-old daughter, Lillian Rose, were tragically murdered on January 20, 2006, in their Hopkinton, Massachusetts home. Their bodies were discovered 2 days later, covered by a comforter in the master bedroom. Rachel had been shot in the head and Lillian in the torso. The bullet that killed Lillian also pierced Rachel's chest. Rachel's husband, Neil Entwistle, was arrested on February 8, 2006, after fleeing to the UK. He was extradited to the US and convicted in 2008 of 2 counts of first-degree murder. The prosecution argued that he killed his wife and daughter as part of a murder-suicide plan after Rachel became suspicious of him. Entwistle was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In 2011, Entwistle filed for a retrial, claiming illegal searches and potential juror bias. The Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court rejected his appeal in 2012, and the U.S. Supreme Court declined to hear the case in 2013, leaving his conviction intact. In the years following the murders, Rachel's parents, Joe and Priscilla Matarazzo, established the Rachel and Lillian Rose Foundation to raise awareness of domestic violence and child abuse. The foundation has supported organizations like Bay State Community Services and the Norfolk Advocate for Children. A room named Rachel and Lily's Loft was dedicated to them at the Norfolk Advocate for Children Center in Foxborough.